The date is October 13th, 1307. It is a Friday. Across the kingdom of France, the sun has not yet risen. The streets of Paris are quiet. In the countryside, the mist still clings to the fields. But inside the royal palace, King Philip IV is awake. He has been planning this moment for months. At his signal, hundreds of royal seneschals unseal secret orders that were sent out weeks ago. The instructions are identical. The timing is synchronized. In a single hour, the king's men strike. They kick down the doors of every commandery, every safe house, and every bank in France belonging to one specific group of men, the Knights Templar. These are not enemies of the state. They are the heroes of Christendom. They are the elite special forces of the medieval world. The men who held the line in Jerusalem, the bankers who financed the Crusades. They answer only to the Pope. They are untouchable, or so they thought. By noon, thousands of them are in chains. Their treasure is seized, their reputation is destroyed. History tells us they were arrested because they were heretics, that they worshipped a cat-headed idol named Baphomet, that they spat on the cross and engaged in unspeakable rites. That is the story the king told. It is the story the Pope eventually accepted. It is the story that justified burning them alive. But it was a lie. The destruction of the Knights Templar wasn't about religion. It wasn't about God. It was about something much more modern. It was the first hostile corporate takeover in history. If you've ever wondered how a government can erase a hero to save a balance sheet, you are in the right place. Here on AG Chronicle, we follow the money, not the myth. Every subscription, every like, helps us clear the smoke of history's burning stakes. Now let's go to the dungeon, because the torture is about to begin, and the king needs a confession. To understand why the Templars had to die, you have to understand what they had become. They started in 1119 as 9 poor knights protecting pilgrims in Jerusalem. But over 2 centuries they evolved. They invented modern banking. A pilgrim could deposit gold in London, get a receipt, a coded letter of credit, and withdraw the money in Jerusalem. They became fabulously wealthy. They owned 9,000 estates. They owned their own fleet of ships. They were a multinational corporation with a standing army. And their biggest client was Philip IV, the King of France. Philip was a man with a problem. He was broke. He had fought costly wars against England and Flanders. He had debased the currency, sparking riots in Paris. He was so deep in debt to the Templars that the temple in Paris was effectively running the French treasury. Philip didn't just owe them money, he owed them everything. He looked at the Templars, an aging, arrogant organization that had lost the Holy Land years earlier. And he didn't see holy warriors. He saw a piggy bank. But you can't just rob the Pope's army. You have to destroy their soul first. The raid on Friday the 13th was a masterclass in bureaucracy. It was swift, secret, and total. But the arrest was the easy part. The hard part was the PR campaign. Philip's lawyers, led by a ruthless man named Guillaume de Nogaret, drafted the accusations. They were designed to be shocking. They claimed the knights denied Christ during their initiation, that they kissed each other on the navel, that they worshipped a severed head. These accusations were carefully chosen. They were heresy, and heresy meant the king could bypass the Pope's protection. Then came the torture. The Inquisition didn't ask questions. They demanded answers. They used the rack, the strappado. They greased the knights' feet and held them over fire. Of the 138 Templars interrogated in Paris, virtually all of them confessed. Of course they did. As one knight said, "I would have confessed to killing God himself to stop the pain." Philip published these confessions. He read them in the town squares. He turned the public against their heroes. He created a moral panic so great that even the Pope, Clement V, was forced to back down. The king had won. He got the money, he got the land, and he canceled his debt. For 700 years, history believed the Pope betrayed the Templars, that the Church condemned them. But in 2001, a researcher named Barbara Frail was digging through the Vatican Secret Archives. She found a document that had been lost, misfiled in the wrong box, for centuries. It is known as the Chinon Parchment. It is the smoking gun. The document records a secret trial held by the Pope's agents in the castle of Chinon in 1308. In it, Pope Clement V interrogates the Templar leadership. He hears their side. And the verdict? He absolved them. The Pope declared the Templars were not heretics. He found that their strange initiation rituals were just hazing, military drills designed to test obedience, not devil worship. The Pope intended to reform them, not destroy them. But King Philip ignored it. He suppressed the evidence. He bullied the weak Pope into silence and burned the Knights anyway. The Chinon Parchment proves that the destruction of the Templars wasn't a judgment of God. It was a judicial murder by a king who wanted to erase his credit card bill. But the story doesn't end at the stake, because on that Friday morning in 1307, the king made one mistake. He captured the Knights, he captured the land, but he missed the ships. The Templars had a massive naval fleet docked at La Rochelle on the French Atlantic coast. They were the best sailors in the world. Witness statements from the time claim that the night before the arrest, under the cover of darkness, the entire Templar fleet, 18 galleys loaded with supplies and archives, slipped out of the harbor. When the king's men arrived at the docks the next morning, the water was empty. Where did they go? They didn't go to the Pope. They didn't go to the king's allies. Many historians believe they went to the one place in Europe where the Pope had no power: Scotland. Scotland was fighting for its independence against England. Its king, Robert the Bruce, was excommunicated. He was an outlaw. He didn't care what the Pope thought. He needed soldiers. 7 years later, at the Battle of Bannockburn, a ragged Scottish army defeated the mighty English chivalry. Legend says the tide turned when a group of mysterious, heavy cavalry charged into the fray, bearing the cross of the temple. Did the fugitive knights help win Scotland's freedom? We may never know for sure, but the graves in Scotland's Rochelle Chapel are carved with Templar symbols that shouldn't be there. But there is one place where we know they survived. In Portugal, King Denis refused to arrest them. He needed them to fight the Moors. So he pulled a brilliant legal maneuver. He simply changed the name on the door. The Knights Templar were dissolved, and immediately the Order of Christ was formed. Same men, same fortresses, same red cross on a white background. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is fact. 200 years later, ships bearing that same red cross, the cross of the Templars, sailed across the Atlantic. Vasco da Gama was a Knight of the Order of Christ. Prince Henry the Navigator was a Grand Master. When Christopher Columbus sailed to the Americas, the cross on his sails was the cross of the Order of Christ. The Templars didn't die. They just changed their mission. They went from guarding the roads of Jerusalem to opening the sea routes to the New World. The gold King Philip tried to steal was nothing compared to the empires his victims helped build. Back in Paris, the end came on March 18, 1314. Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master, an old man in his 70s, was brought out in front of Notre Dame. He was supposed to confess one last time, but he went off script. He shouted that the order was innocent, that the confessions were lies born of torture. The king was furious. He ordered de Molay to be burned that very evening on a small island in the Seine. As the flames rose, legend says de Molay screamed a curse. "Pope Clement, King Philip, before a year is out, I summon you to the tribunal of God to receive your judgment. Curse to the 13th generation." It's a great story, but here is the chilling part. It came true. Pope Clement died of a stomach disease 33 days later. King Philip suffered a stroke while hunting and died in November of that same year. Philip's 3 sons and his grandson all died within 14 years. The Capetian dynasty, which had ruled France for 300 years, collapsed. The accursed kings fell, one by one. The Templars were destroyed by a king who controlled the law, the media, and the fire. It was the state crushing the individual for profit, but they left a mark that Philip couldn't erase. Every time you wire money from one bank to another, you are using a system the Templars invented. Every time you see a Friday the 13th on the calendar and feel a twinge of unease, you are remembering the day the law failed. The ruined towers of the Templars still dot the landscape of Europe. They are monuments to a simple truth. You can kill the men, you can burn the bodies, but you cannot kill the idea. The king got the gold, but the Templars got the future. Thank you for watching AG Chronicle. If you believe that the official story is often just a cover-up for the balance sheet, subscribe. Because history is written by the victors, but the receipts are usually kept by the victims.